everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Grand Prixquel Podcast, where we discuss all things feeder series. Today's episode is going to be a bit of a long one because we're covering 6 different championships. We are covering F2, F3, and F1 Academy at Silverstone, Eurocup 3 at Imola, E4 at Vallelunga, and FREC at the Hungaroring. Your hosts for today are myself, Robin, Nova, Peter, Evan, and Alex.
So I feel like F2 it was an interesting weekend overall, I feel like, in terms of the championship standings, maybe, because it was just utter sort of domination when we got to the races.
We finally had the Grand Prixquel break. My prediction of what of Tsolov being leading the championship at Silverstone finally happened. Thank you to whoever stopped cursing podcaster. At the same time, I think a podcast is still cursed. But
Now we just need to wait till the end of the season to see if he actually wins, because given our luck,
even if he doesn't, like, because all I wanted was Mini not to lead, and well, I got that finally. So I'm not gonna make any more predictions because I think that's too much.
I mean, to be fair, there are certain drivers that we haven't cursed before. Like, there are a couple episodes where we are talking about James Agosi being really good, and then he just continued to be really good afterwards.
yeah, I did call him a Winter Series merchant though, so you need to remember that. But yeah, qualifying, I think across all 3 series, we saw a lot of track limit violations. Like, everybody was getting their laps deleted. Did anyone not get a lap deleted?
Did we have more track limits here than in Austria?
Yeah, because I think over in Austria it's more self-policing, because of course you have the gravel and a lot of exits. Whereas in like Silverstone, like you go somewhere like Cops, there's quite people going over there. There is no gravel, so there is no self-policing. Yeah, it is just, how Kamara pole, I feel like Kamara pole just feels inevitable almost. He's always going to be up there. And I found Tsolov's rodeo quite interesting. So he did his lap, he went P1 up the first, but then he had the likes of Kamara done overtake him. But he was like, I can't do better than that. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, that was so weird. Like, your best lap was good enough for, like, where was he? Like, P5? How is your best lap only good enough for P5 and you cannot do anything more than that?
It's just an interesting comment to hear. Like, surely I feel like if there was any other driver that could try to push more of the limit, like push the limits as much as they could. But Tsolov just outright flatly like just flat out saying to engineer, "Oh, like that's all I can do." It's just like it's just interesting. You don't really hear that from like drivers.
Yeah, and it's not like he was close. He was nearly 3 tenths off what Kamara did. Like, it was not even close.
Invicta needs to be investigated.
Yeah, because then when you compare to everyone else, because Kamara was 2 tenths ahead of Dunn, so behind Dunn, he's not too far off. He's less than a tenth off. So maybe it shows how good the pace of the Invicta is. I don't know, but actually like we saw just how good Tsolov was in the sprint and feature race. The sprint race.
To manage to overtake into the lead in both races when you're not near the front in either of them,
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
he just had good starting moves. The sprint race. He just had a good start, and he just had great pace. But I think we need to talk about whatever that Bennett and Montoya crash was.
Felt very British F4-esque. Maybe it's just me.
I think Montoya went off somewhere. Bennett tried to avoid him, and they just kind of collided together.
Like, I watched the crash and I was like, damn, this looks like something that would happen in British F4.
Even after rewatching it, I still can't figure out what exactly happened.
It really looked like Bennett got mecha-chromed on, like, the straight.
Yeah, I thought he got mecha-chromed at first, but then they hear, oh no, Montoya's pulled off to the side as well, and it's like, oh, okay, I feel like the smoke coming out. It's always these sort of guys involved in these incidents.
Yeah, exactly. It's, like, not really surprising.
Yeah, and Kamara had a really bad start. He lost 4 places.
Oh, I don't think I was starting. I was just in general. When I wrote those notes down, I think it was just in general. But the point was that Kamara did not do good that race.
Yeah, he lost He looked like 2 places off the line, then he got overtaken, kind of got swamped. He tried to make it back up, but
I think he did eventually, from what I remember. I think he finished P10. So he started where he started. He finished where he started, I guess. But it's just like he was just pretty bad, like throughout the race. He he did eventually get up there, get up to the P10 again. But
and yeah, it's just kind of given the pace we know the Invicta has. I mean, he's taken 3 pole positions. That Invicta is fast. He's just not able to execute the races half the time.
Has something happened to Stenshorn? I mean, what is going on with him now? Like, he has been not great for a good couple weekends now, and
He's on like a 3 race, like a 3 race weekend non-scoring streak.
he's inherited it from Dunn, just constantly causing incidents and just he's taken he's taken it from Dunn. Dunn is now a clean racer, and Stenshorn is doing whatever the hell he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, Stenshorn, I feel like he can be solid at times. It's not like he's a generous. It's not like a solid or someone who really stands out. But yeah, I mean, I do expect more from him. He's still solid enough. He should be in the points every week. I just don't know what's happened to him since Monaco. Hopefully in Spa we see him return to his normal form. I mean, or maybe worried that one both their drivers near each other.
also that last lap move from Tsolov at the end for the lead of the race or the win, actually, essentially, amazing, perfect, loved it.
Oh,
Best, I think it was the best part about the entire F2 weekend. Because the entire F2 weekend, as you'll find out, was I did not enjoy it as much. I think I wrote that F3 was a lot better, which I mean it was objectively. There's like nothing in F2.
the racing was just boring, but then Tsolov, and I think Tsolov has really evolved over the last few years where he's now able to time the moves and he's getting better and better at doing that and knowing when to go for a move, when not to go for a move.
I think I remember, was it was it Australia 2024 where Tsolov made that really like dirty move on? Like he's come a long way from that.
Yeah, he crashed into Dunn on
In
purpose.
qualifying, yeah, no. He's come a it's like they're interlinked. Right. I mean, I think this weekend we just saw the best of Tsolov.
I saw a tweet once that said that Tsolov crashing into Dunn on purpose in Australia 2024 was what changed Dunn's brain chemistry and made him super crash prone.
Honestly, I believe that.
But Donny finally evolved. I think after Canada, he realised. I think he had like a moment. I think it's finally awoken in him because the start of the season we were like, not again, this guy. But
I just think it's a bit sad that Rodin is just not that good.
yeah, but at least he's still getting solid finishes. That's the best he can do. And going on to the future race, I mean, Tsolov had a great start. He started P5, got up to P2, Miney went to the lead. The front row were just slow in getting off.
Pecamara's start was bad.
Yeah, I mean, he fell to P3, Dunn fell to P4. I mean, whatever happened to the front two, it was just slow off the line.
I find it really funny that the commentators for F2 both I think both of them said that Tsolov had a bad start, and initially I wrote that in because I did not finish the start because I think my stream was like breaking or whatever. But it's really funny how they said bad start when Tsolov did not have a bad. He had the opposite of that. He had a pretty good start. It was either that or he was just or he was just also really aided by the fact that the front row was really bad. But even then, like still, I think he like if you watch back the replay, I think he had a great start, pretty decent start.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like there's not too much to say about the future race because nothing really happened. Solov overtook for the lead, as he always does. And I mean, what else? Miney somehow on the podium because
Oh my god, Miney podium.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. Again, money talks real hard at ART. It seems.
There was the whole like strategy thing as well. Like the guys that went on the softs at the end were really good.
yeah, I mean that's kind of like if you even saw in Spain, you just get a tire delta and you kind of go away with it.
But Solov had built such a big lead in the front that he just didn't fall victim to Villa Gomez at the end. Imagine if we got a Villa Gomez win.
Ah.
That
Oh
would
my
have really
God.
just shown how bad, like, F2 is.
He went from last in the standings to like what, P10 or something now?
Yeah, because he was on podium last weekend too. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's 10th now. Like, I love how Villa Gomez, he's only scored points 3 times, and on 3 of those times are podiums.
VAR, their entire philosophy is either you get a podium or you don't get anything.
2 of those podiums are sprint podiums as well.
It's just, Villa Gomez is not real.
F2 is not real.
This means Tsolov has now won 3 races in a row, and this is his 6th win of the season. To put that into perspective, no one else this season has won more than 1 race, and he's won 6.
That's crazy.
The real stat, I mean, it sounds fake, but it's real. I promise I'm not lying to you guys.
We never spread
check.
misinformation on the Grand Prixquel Pod. That is not a thing we do ever. We've never done that before.
And as we alluded to earlier, this means Tsolov, we've finally broken the curse. And he has a decent margin now. He's leading by 17 points. I think the difference between Tsolov and Mini is Mini's been ultra consistent. There's only been 1 race where Mini hasn't scored any points, whereas Tsolov he has really high highs, but he also had a few DNFs, a few non-point scorers, but some of which have not been his fault. To be fair to him, he's been a bit unlucky compared to Mini maybe. But I hope he can actually show his quality, because he is the best driver in this field. It's not, to me at least, it's not really a question of it. It is quite a weak field, especially I think because we've had so many guys go up to F1, and then you have the good guys in F3. F2's just kind of left in the middle without having anyone.
I mean, the fact that Leon is P5, I think explains a lot about that. Like, we've just the quality that we have just this year is just not up to like what we've expected. Like, especially last year was a really decent grid in my opinion.
Or 2024 was insane.
Nothing can beat 2024 F2.
Can't believe we might have the best driver in the field actually win the championship.
I mean, it helps when everyone else is kind of.
When was the last time the best driver in the field won the championship? That's a stat for someone to research.
In my personal unbiased opinion, 2023.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, that the payable chair won that year.
I'd say Victor Martins though was quite good. Fred Vesti, they were both quite good that year as well.
Yeah, honestly, 2023 was also a great year. But I think I only say 2023 because Teo was really consistent with getting on the podium, getting like those points. Because I do remember back on F1 Twitter back in the day, people were
Back
just
in the day.
absolutely angry that
Back in the
back in
day.
the back in my day,
Your
3 years
unc.
ago. Back in my day, 3 years
Youngest
ago,
one
people
here,
used
and
I
he's
was gonna
on.
mention that.
Yeah, he's his
look,
unc.
people used to be people were so upset over Vesti not winning the championship, and of course it was the last like race like shootout essentially for it. But like I was like, oh, he won more races, therefore he deserves to win on merit. I'm like, well, that's not how it works. Like Vesti, no, Paul Chair was just like more consistent. He was getting more podiums. He was getting into the points more often. Vesti, to be fair, that year though had a bit of bad luck.
Zandvoort. When they didn't attach his tires properly and he just spun around. I think that was really funny.
That was a really funny for me as a Vesti, not as a Porsche fan, but very bad luck for him. But honestly, I don't think we've had a proper good like winner who like the fastest best driver win since 2023 at least.
Yeah, because 2024, the teams, Prema and ART, I don't know what they did with this new car. How do you fumble a Berman Antonelli lineup?
I was just surprised because ART was the fastest car. Okay, to be fair, we had new regulations, so it's not like or new cars. So it's not like it's not like I was gonna say ART was the fastest in 2023, but we all know that honestly that's a bit of not many Teo doing it, in my opinion, because every other year had been Prema essentially winning the championship. So almost but not consistently, but mainly Prema. But
And I guess now, instead of Prema and ART, we have Invicta and Campos. Except it's basically Invicta and Campos now. And Tsolov is just able to get everything out of the camp he is able to. Whereas I think maybe Kamara, he has one lap pace, but he's not able to he has 3 poles, but he only won one race.
I think, yeah, I was going to say that probably explains a lot as to why he just can't do well in the races.
And he's third in the championship, but he's 30 points behind Mini. And that means he's nearly 50 points, 46 to be exact, if my maths is 47 behind Tsolov. That's nearly 2 future race wins off the lead.
And people say that this guy is ready for F1 as well. I'm just saying. I know F2 is not representative. We talk about this all the time on the podcast, how F2 is the most inconsistent, the most nothing in F2 actually makes sense at all because everything is wrong, everything does not work. But considering the fact that the Invicta is the fastest car, is essentially the fastest car, usually, lap on lap,
on one lap pace, Steph. And also on the tyres, we saw in Spain how much longer he was able to keep the tyres alive compared to everyone else.
Invicta, and I also just make these subjects because Invicta's been the fastest car in the last since the start of regulations. But I think the other people finally caught up and tuned their car bit by bit. Mechachrome's not affecting them as badly as it was at the start of 2024, where we just see every team but Invicta have engine problems, honestly. So I think now that we're in our third year of the new car, or third season, I should say, technically. I think Invicta's just no longer that fast team as it used to be. Just like how Primo used to be the fastest in F2.
I mean, you can see it in the team's championship as well. Invicta's 4th.
But then again, Dirksen, I think it's due to lineups. It's just due to the lineup because
MP honestly is a bit impressive. I would say it's impressive that they're P2, but that's also because they've been carried by Mini at the same time. So
yeah, it's same with Campos. Tsolov on his own would be 3rd in the championship, team championship, the amount of points he has. And he's only
2nd by 1 point. Because Rodin's on 140, he's on 141 by himself.
Yeah, he'd be 3rd because MP. Oh no, yeah.
If you ignore Campos.
He'd be 2nd, and it's not. He only has 11 points left, which is. And yeah, it just shows how good he's been, and.
That's kind of insane, actually.
Yeah, I think that's enough sort of glazing from us. Now time for me to glaze Freddy Slater. I need to do this, I'm
time
sorry.
anyway. It was gonna happen.
He's just been mega fast the whole weekend. Okay, he got disqualified from practice due to something with a fuel, but he was faster than qualifying.
Early session was really interesting.
Yeah. So in qualifying, so his first lap got deleted to the track limit, but then his second lap went P1, third lap went even faster P1. Something about him in Silverstone. He's always been fast in Silverstone. In GB3 last year, he took 2 wins. In Trinidad Juniors, he's won 6 races here. He's really good at Silverstone. Maybe it's the home crowd. It was looking to be a great weekend.
Let's cover the sprint before we get to the feature, though.
Yeah, no, I think it's more about qualifying. Niall and Nuga crew, they had to the last. They got their first 2 laps deleted. That do at the end. Ugo eventually got his lap reinstated, but there's still the pressure on them. And DePallo and McLaughlin finally having good weekends. I think it helped McLaughlin because he's finally at a circuit he's raced at before. None of the circuits he's been to before. I think that maybe helped him, giving him confidence because we saw him qualify 6th in the end, which, yeah, it's really good from him. But yeah, as you said, onto the sprint. Ugo is dominant in that.
Yeah, Ugo really was. Just that, what was it, like a 10?
Over 15 seconds.
Yeah, over 15 seconds of a margin.
But we do need to preface that with, you hope, Johan David, what a defense for P2.
Yes. Oh my days. In an AIX as well. That was impressive.
Yeah, it's like he trained from P2 to P9 or something at the end. And he was just holding them off so well. It was really impressive to see. Because, I don't know, he was playing dirty as well. He was doing it cleanly. He was changing lines a lot and making brake checking. He was doing it cleanly as well, which makes it even more impressive. And yeah, to talk about Freddie, he had a bit of a poor start. I don't know what he was doing at the start. he was bumming around at the start or whatever. But he eventually made a place. He made like last 4 or 5 laps. He made up like 5 places. He was taking timing his overtakes well. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Freddie's race a lot, and the other two Tridents are. I don't know why these Tridents can't race each other cleanly. Because again, it's Stromstead and DePaula, they made light contact with each other. And they, I mean, if they'd worked together with Niall, they probably could have gotten to David. But they didn't work well together, and then they ended up kind of going into each other and hindering each other. And yeah, I mean, I have opinions on DePaula, which we'll get to later.
And I think it's also good to mention that not just I think that's also what helped with Niall like making up that amount of positions. He made up about
He
I
went
can't count.
11th to
11 to
3rd.
P3, yeah.
He had a really good start. He went from like 3rd to 8th or 7th at the start. And then he was just kind of holding his pace. I mean, Niall has been one of the he's been one of the best drivers this year. He's been a bit unlucky at times. So at least in this sprint, he was able to show what he's able to do. And yeah, and DePaolo and McLaughlin finally got their first point. And yeah, the feature race.
Oh. I'll let you take it away, I think.
No, that bit's at the end.
Okay.
But you know, I'll start with the good stuff. Freddie had a good getaway from pole, but Niall, they were quite equal off the line, it felt like, and Niall was challenging, but Freddie managed to keep the lead. But then, yeah, DePaolo eventually got up to second, and at the start, it seemed like Niall and Freddie were just letting DePaolo pass because he was going to cook his tyres, which he did at first. Freddie eventually got back ahead, and then DePaolo managed to overtake him, and then the safety car came out after a few laps of DePaolo being in the lead. And yeah, it's led to a 1-lap shootout, and
That was an interesting one-up shootout, to say the least, between the first two.
DePaolo is just okay. I don't know what he was doing because okay, fine, you can raise your teammate, but please do it cleanly. He's busy. He's moving around. He's not sticking to proper line. He's not accelerating like he normally would. He's braking way earlier than he should.
Yeah, I was gonna play devil's advocate just then and say, well, Freddie went into the back of him twice at the same time. The Pala was not racing. Yeah,
Cleanly.
yeah,
That's why he
exactly.
wasn't accelerating like normal. Where's Freddie meant to go if the guy in front of him is not moving like he normally would? And in the end,
Yeah, that final little wheel tap.
I mean, DePello, fine racing, but just do it cleanly, and you ended up costing the team the 1-2. I mean, okay, I am biased that he over Freddie, and all of that for him to get disqualified against Karma, he got disqualified.
I think the theory, I saw a theory, or like a joke theory of maybe the problem was with his diffuser was because Freddy kept going into the back of him.
I mean, deserved. If you're not going to accelerate like normal and brake way too early, then you deserve that. I'm sorry.
I think he had a plan there. Freddie had a plan. As soon as he knew that the Pala was not gonna let it go, I think he had a plan, and that was his plan.
Yeah, but I mean, try to need to sort it out, whatever it is, because he's 2 times where he's been screwed over by his teammates in the last 2 race weekends.
It's just crazy that the Pala had the audacity, like, just then. Like, he just scored his first point literally a day before.
But he can race cleanly. I'm fine with him racing. Just please do it cleanly. I mean, it's Stromstead.
I mean, to be fair, to what Evan said about DePaulo scoring his first points the day before, maybe it was desperation to score more points that had him do what he did.
It was desperation, and I think he probably has the pressure from McLaren.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that he's not been performing to the level that he should be in the Trident, for example. And so, if he wants to keep his academy backing, he's desperate, basically.
Also, how does this look to an academy if you're desperately? It goes both ways. But I am just annoyed, if you can't tell. I don't crash out often on the podcast, but
Yeah.
Freddie did still finish P2 in the end due to literally everybody getting penalties.
Can I list out the penalties? Can I do
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
Okay, so DePaulo got disqualified for his diffuser height. Rivera, GST, and Wharton all got penalties for weaving. Now got a penalty during the race for, I think, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. And Ho, Xi, and McLaughlin and Baron Bhakti all got penalties for track limits.
This means we end up with a Gladys Slayton Ugo Chukwu podium.
I'm really happy for Gladish.
Yeah.
He's had a great weekend.
I saw the F3 post that said he was the 67th
67th
race
winner.
winner.
Oh my god. 6-7.
And it was on the 6-7.
It should have been Enzo.
It should have been Enzo.
Mr. 6-7 himself.
Enzo was like P15 or something. VAR were not having a great weekend, unfortunately.
I feel like Del Pino still did. He had a good qualify. No, he did not. I am lying.
None of them had good qualifying.
He had a good bit, but actually, never mind, guys.
I thought he did, but no, he.
The only points that VAR scored this weekend were Yamakoshi in the feature race after half the grid got penalized.
These penalties were so funny, and yeah. I wonder if Trudge should have told Freddie and DePaolo that Nara is probably going to get penalised, because maybe the race would have turned out differently if they didn't know Nara was a threat because he's going to get a penalty.
Yeah, possibly.
We knew he was probably going to. We knew from this, because his incident happened. I don't know why it took so long to announce the penalty. If the steward, that should have been announced earlier. Because that happened on like lap 4 or something. The incident where he forced somebody wide. Who was it? He gained an advantage, went way off track. But if that had been announced earlier, I wonder how the end would have turned out.
I don't think DePaulo would have been as desperate to keep the position if he knew that Niall was being penalized.
Even Freddie, it's like, fine, let Niall go ahead. He's going to get a penalty anyways.
Who knows what would have happened.
Yes, going into the championship, this means despite Ugo qualifying P12, he actually extended his championship lead, I think.
I think the top two are breaking away quite a bit from the rest of the field. I mean, there's a 27-point gap between Slater and Niall.
Yeah, to be fair, Niall he's been fast, he's just been a bit unlucky. Like, I wish he's been fast, just not maybe fully able to execute things. I mean, he has 3 pole positions. He was on the front row this weekend. He only had 1 bad qualifying, which was last time, the weekend before out in Austria. It's just he's not maybe able to fully put the weekend together for whatever reason. And yeah, I mean, even Ugo, he has a decent lead now. I mean, he has what? He has a 17-point lead, which is pretty sizable. But in F3, we saw with Niall, like, 1 bad qualifying in F3, the qualifying like down in P28. That's your weekend gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freddie, please lock in Spa. I can't.
Enzo is out of the top 10, which I'm kind of sad about. He's not had a good last few weekends.
I think VAR is like, ever since Spain, they've just been struggling as a team.
Yeah, they used up all of their pace from the season in Spain, and now it's all gone.
I mean, honestly, shout out to Ernesto Rivera for now being P11 in the points, despite missing the first race weekend. That's quite impressive. To come back from a back injury, be on the pace, and be P11 is quite impressive, I think.
I really feel like he could have been like really high up in the championship if he hadn't missed Australia. Maybe maybe top 5 or something.
I mean, that kind of seeing the camp and the Trident are the best 2 cars. I think the Trident again has started really showing its pace in the last 2 weekends. We've now just seen Stromstead and DePallo out of nowhere is finally up there as well. Because for the first few weekends, we only really Freddie up there. But now Stromstead has joined the party. He's P4 in the championship, albeit 30 points behind Freddie.
Paulo raced on Silverstone before?
No, don't think so.
Because I was gonna say for him and Finn McLaughlin, it could be a thing of experience because obviously Finn has raced on Silverstone before, so just being on a track that you've raced before really, really helps. But if DePaulo hasn't raced in Silverstone before, then I'm not sure where this sudden amount of pace has come from.
And he's raced in Barcelona before. He did 2 years of FREC.
Not sure then.
And he also did Spanish F4. That means he has like 3 race weekends in Barcelona.
You'd think he would have won Barcelona then. But yeah, no, at least the experiencing explains like Finn's performance this weekend.
Yeah, I think it hopefully sets up a more. I think it's quite obvious he's going to do a second season, and the fact he's able to bring pace to a circuit he knew, I think that sets up promise for next year. Because we saw last year in British F4 how good he was. It's just been a tough. It is a massive step up to go. I mean, most drivers. It's a bit Tsolov-like in a way. We saw Tsolov
Yeah, I was
skip.
gonna compare him to Tsolov.
Yeah, I mean, Rebel at the time. No, he was an Alpine junior at the time, but a good driver going straight. And not from like they made Italian F4. I think Italian F4, at least in the last few years, has been kind of the top series. British F4, Spanish F4, maybe a step below. From that to go straight up to F3, you are going to struggle. I mean, very few drivers have successful jumps. I mean, in recent years, I can think of Berman went to F4 to F3 and Antonelli went Formula Regional to F2. I can't really think of, and Lindblad as well skipped Formula Regional. But these guys are all in F1 now and are performing extremely well in F1.
Finn McLaughlin to be the next F1 driver. You heard it here first.
And going on the championship teams, yeah, Campos have a 42-point lead, and I don't see that point lead coming down anytime soon.
Yeah, all three of their drivers have been performing quite well, and I mean the car is great. So
It's a combination of everything: good drivers, good car, good team. The team operationally. Yeah, I think F3 has some of the best racing this weekend. Overall, there is really fun races to watch. The thing is, Silverstone is a great circuit. Okay, I am biased because I just like Silverstone, but I feel like maybe in F2, F1 Academy, they just for some reason they weren't racing as well. But F3 was just amazing racing.
going from what was really good racing to what was possibly the most boring race weekend, like racing series this weekend. FREC, I'm I have no words to explain how boring those races were.
Yeah, Steven,
Oh my
I say we
god.
just eliminate the whole weekend and pretend it never happened in terms of the
We're not
points.
eliminating the whole weekend.
Please.
Um,
We have three hosts on right now who have very different opinions about this weekend. We can all agree, yes, it was boring, but what it implied for all of our reps, you will see in a moment.
it, you have like three very, very different opinions because I thought it was great.
Yeah, of course, always. Always said what, two? Always said what, 2 1 2s? Meanwhile, sure, but
Exactly.
two
Yeah.
DNFs.
Okay. Before we get into the racing, we had another new driver for CL Motorsport. Noah Lyle, he was meant to do GB3, right?
Yeah,
Just left before the season started due to some personal issues. I don't remember what exactly it was.
I feel like it's all probably funding related. He maybe lost out on funding for GB3, but now he's got him funding back to maybe do some work.
Yeah, he said family and money problems. I remember in his post when he first dropped out of GB3.
But yeah, he was in for this weekend. Because all of CL's drivers that they had before were busy racing in their own series. So to start off with quali,
Oh my god.
qualifying was great. The first we had an R race 1-3-4 with Sano on pole, Alvahiri third, and Olivieri fourth, and the only person splitting them was Swerden.
Out of nowhere, because he's not been very good so far.
Yeah.
He hasn't been like a standout driver so far this season.
But then again, we had the G4. Okay, where did this G4 pace come from?
The G4 pace and then like the arts also were doing like randomly really well. But oh my gosh, there was a moment in qualifying where Almasergi got overall pole for a good, I think like a good few laps, and I was sitting there and I was gripping my seat and I'm like, we're gonna have a G4 pole. We're gonna have a G4 pole.
Luckily, RSGP saved us from a G4 pole. Thank you, Yuki Sano.
Thank you, Yuki-sana.
You know, I did not like this qualifying step. He was only P9.
Ian was P12. Pole man himself.
He had a better race though.
Oh, well, true. Yeah, I'll give you that.
I was really surprised to see Sano on pole. Like I saw Arias' pace over the weekend, and I was thinking like maybe Alvahri or Olivieri pole, and then the other two would be like right behind. I was not expecting Sano on pole. Sano and Alvahri were 1 and 2 in their quali group, and then I was really hoping Olivieri would end up first in his quali group, but he ended up second behind Swerden. Sosermanis had a pretty decent qualifying. Was he the best Prima?
Yes, I was gonna mention that he was the best Prema, and yeah, it went Stoltzemanis, Kian, and then Hannah. I think.
What was this top 10?
There's something in the Hungaroring air.
And then the CLs were also randomly really good. Like Franco was in P5 for quali, and there were moments where the others were also setting like pretty good paces, and I was like, what is going on?
But yeah, so great quality from RSGP. I love this French team.
And then the race was just so boring.
Yeah, there was literally nothing happened. Like Aldahri overtook Sewerdon on the start, and Weldon spun at one point, and that's literally everything that happened.
Yeah, no, I mean he's so bad he couldn't overtake at Almasurgery. He just couldn't overtake over there. It was so bad.
He tried to overtake him and went into the grass and spun.
Yeah.
Don't remind me, please.
What is this top 10 again?
I mean, it's just he couldn't do it. It's not like Monza where everybody was going, kept on changing position. Here it was like nobody's going to change positions. You're going to stay where you were at the end of lap 1.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kian was chasing Kabir Anurag of all people for like every single lap, and he never could make a move.
Kian was chasing Anurag, Seb was chasing Almasurgery.
This reminds me of the Formula Regional Middle East race that I watched live, where Alex Powell was stuck behind Anurag the entire race.
And it's not like the race 2 in quality 2 was any better.
Well, it was still a race 1, 2, what was it? Was it 1, 2, 4 or was it 1, 3, 4? I don't remember.
For race 1.
For race 2.
Oh, race 2 was after Penn or before Penn's?
I meant for qualifying.
Oh, quali. I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but it was either 1, 2, 4 or 1, 3, 4. So again, really, really good quality performance. I mean, that race was a little bit more interesting. We had a couple incidents. Unfortunately, Yuki stalled on the start.
RIP Sano.
I was really sad about it. I really thought it was Olivieri for a second. And I had Austria flashbacks. Because he literally stalled all 3 starts there. But it was not Olivieri. It was Sano, unfortunately. I feel really bad that he got his first race win the day before and then he stalls on the start in the second race. But yeah, so Weldon had an engine failure of sorts.
Yes. On July 4th weekend, the American was doing bad.
Just no point the whole weekend.
Peter, you know how it feels, how I felt during Portimao.
Yeah.
Oh.
At one point, Nova, your driver, will also suffer a double DNF.
No,
and then you'll
don't
feel
say
how
that. Screw. No. Ah.
I mean, Austria, I think, was bad enough.
Austria was horrendous.
he did well in the first 2 races, though.
But we need a double DNF.
And he did get double pole. He did get double pole that weekend, so.
You need the experience of whatever this is, guys.
Speaking of Prema DNFs.
Yeah, so Gauda just, I don't know what happened between him and Stolzermanis. They did not show a replay. Because once again, TV direction is not great. But no replay, they just collided and Gauda got a 10-second penalty for it. So and then Hannah got crashed into by Newman Chi. Most normal Newman Chi activities.
Something I realized was that the two current Prema drivers were both crashed into by former Prema drivers.
Oh my god.
Like everything that happened during this race happened to someone who used to be connected with Prema. And also, for some reason, the commentator during this round kept on bringing up that Rashid used to be part of Prema. Like, he kept on saying the ex-Prema man, now the current RAce man. And I don't know why he felt the need.
And he kept saying that Rashid was the sprint king.
That feels like an insult. Okay, the sprint kid, that feels like an insult. You should call him the sprint merchant.
And also, he just didn't notice that Sano stalled. He was just like, oh my god, what happened to Yuki Sano? He's like P20 something on our timings. Is that a transponder issue?
That was like lap 10.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, so Chi also got a 10-second penalty for the collision with Hana.
Yes.
The race ended under a safety car, which meant that anyone who got post-race penalties got really screwed over. And that happens to Akazawa, who initially finished the race in P2, but got a penalty for a race mode infringement. So his 6-second penalty, I still find these like weirdly specific numbers really funny. But the 6-second penalty dropped him down to like P20 something, I think.
I thought it was P14. Was it P20 something?
I don't remember, but it would have dropped him down really low because of the safety car and so it promoted Olivieri and up to P2 and promoted KMB to the podium. So he gets to
Yay.
keep his podium streak.
Yay! Also, Alcasava was only put down to P13. That's why I got
Really?
confused. Yeah, only P13. That's why when you said P20 something, I was like, that feels way too low.
I really thought it was P20 something.
Ian gets to keep his podium streak. Yay.
And then this means we have Aldeher leading the championship and Abby's P3.
21 points ahead of KMB.
He's 9 points ahead of Seb.
And then Olivieri has really closed the gap down.
I mean, it's the top 4 we thought it was going to be going into the season.
Exactly. Olivieri has closed down the gap to 5 points behind Weldon.
And then you have Franco down in P5 with 84 points, which is...
I read the Feeder Series article about this race weekend, and they usually put the rookie standings as well as the overall standings on the team standings, and what I found really funny was the rookie standings are just however many like normal points the rookies have scored. So it's just like the standings of the rookies, just I don't know how to explain it, but I hope you get what I mean. And so because Olivieri's on 116 points in the normal standings, he's leading the rookie standings, because obviously he's the highest rookie. The second highest rookie is Alex Munoz, who is on 37 points.
37.
That's really funny.
Hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby. I kept saying that this entire weekend.
116 points versus 37 points. Team's championship is great, by the way. I love it here. RS is leading on 322 points, ahead of MP on 212. We are 110 points ahead of MP. And Prema is only 2 points behind MP. Rodin is a good 100 points behind Prema. And then CL is a couple of points behind Rodin as well. So, at least one of our predictions is happening, which is the RAce Team Championship.
It is nice to see that. I think maybe always are just further ahead because they have 2 drivers who are consistently in Aldeher and Olivieri.
And Sano's a really consistent point scorer as well now.
Exactly. Whereas MP only really have Seb, Prema only really have Kian.
I mean, to be fair, Chi and Upkazawa are both consistent point scorers, but that's about it. They don't compete for race wins or anything.
Yeah, in that sense, whereas because you see in the top 5, in top 4, 2 of them are always. It is really nice to have multiple people in contention like every weekend. It makes it a fun championship. Even if can we just erase the point from this weekend, please?
No.
No thanks. I would quite like to keep the current points.
Well, mine doesn't matter. He's still in P2 anyways. He's maintaining his P2.
Chef, please lock in and let us late. Please, I can't do this.
So, moving on to Eurocup 3. For once, I don't have much to complain about. Well, I do have a little bit to complain about because Campos was kind of nowhere during quali, at least.
In a way, they've been like this the whole season. They've not been on it like they have in literally every other championship.
Exactly. We discussed this in the last episode, but they kind of just sacrificed their Eurocup 3 pace for every other championship. Because aren't they leading every other championship that they're in?
But I think I prefer my other theory that Alex Palou is a witch.
So, during qualifying, it was a sprint weekend this time. So both quali sessions were on the same day, like right after each other. So, Lammers caused a red flag during quali 1, I believe. And so I'm pretty sure his car was too damaged to even do anything in quali 2. So he's kind of starting in the back for like all 3 races. So that really changed up where he was in the championship, obviously. Pillow Motorsport domination, 1, 2, 4, and then 24 for both quali sessions. Obviously it was a Gozzi on pole.
The P24 was Bianca Bustamante, so are we really surprised?
Not really. During, I don't remember which quali had Perard in P2 and which one had Delaniel in P2, but one of them had Perard P2, Delaniel P4, and the other one had Delaniel P2 and Perard P4.
I think Delaniel, he's probably P2 in the quali 1 because I think he started on the front row, remember? Start of race 1, and of course, we know what happened. We'll get on to the race.
Probably. But I don't remember. Campos, during both quali sessions, all their drivers qualified between 10th and 20th. I think the highest quali position was Torverishko in P10. And then during quali 2, I think it was Huizenroder that was P20. But Huizenroder in quali 1 ended up P12, so ended up on the reverse pole, for the sprint race. Powell's quali was not great. He was P13 for race 1 and the sprint race, and then P16 for race 2. But yeah, I mean, we can kind of just see how good Campos has been. Like, we've seen that they weren't very, very good before, but even then, Powell was qualifying like in the top 5. Now Powell's not even close to the top 5.
Maybe Alex Powell cursed them. It's either Alex Palou. It's one of the Alex's faults. Palou or Powell, take your pick. Alex Powell is also cursed.
So moving on to race 1, Igozi literally just like he was leading the race for a good part of it, and then suddenly his car. What's the Eurocup 3 equivalent of Mechachrome?
He just died.
His car just stopped. Like,
you know the Mick Schumacher meme that they're done for the day? That was his car.
oh yeah. I thought, like I was complaining about TV direction a lot during that race, and I had the live timing open, and I saw that Delaniel had gotten past Igozi, and I was like, why did they not show us the overtake for the lead? And then suddenly, everyone else starts overtaking Igozi, and I'm like, wait, what? And then eventually they do show it on the podcast that he's just stopped. And then he got going again, then parked it at the pit entry.
Which was the smart thing to do, I guess. It stopped, gave us the chance to actually get some racing at the end and get in case his car died again. Because you never know with these things, they come back to life and they die again. But it was a really good race 1.
Yeah, race 1 was great. And I swear it's not because of the results. Powell went from P13 up to P3, and after something that we're going to discuss in a second, he ended up P2. Hater Delaniel won the race, but he got a 5-second penalty for forcing Keanu Lazari off the track. However, they are still appealing that penalty. So race 1 results are still not official until now. I hope they don't rescind the penalty just because I really want that P2.
penalise everyone but Alex and give Alex the win.
Exactly. And you'd think that with Igozi DNFing, it would have like really big championship implications, but it did not. He has such a big lead that the DNF just did not matter for him.
Up until this point, he's been on the podium at every single race.
Technically, hasn't he been on the podium? Wait, did he get a podium in race 2? I mean, not race 2, the sprint?
No, he was like P6 or something.
Oh, yeah.
But he scored points then in every race he's finished. You can say that.
Yeah.
And like he would have won race 1 if the car didn't just die.
It's better for everyone other than him that his car died. So, back to like Daniel's penalty, because he forced Alazari off track and there was like some sort of chaos with him and Alazari and Pradel and all that. Alazari ended up DNFing, and he DNF'd again in the sprint race, and that has had a bit of like that has caused a little bit of a mix up in the championship, because I mean, going into this weekend, I thought Alazari was like secure P2, like I thought that was how it was going to end. But he's P3 in the championship now, I think, and he's like right in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, he's P3. Yeah, we'll get on to the full championship standings later.
In the beginning of the race, there was a collision between Ferrari and Perard, and I thought it was a little bit funny because it was kind of karma for both of them crashing into Alex in Portimao.
Yeah, I feel like in race 1, Alex was able to benefit a lot from the chaos up front.
Yeah, he both benefited from the chaos and also made a couple overtakes himself, which for once we're not involved in the chaos.
But I was hoping he'd do more on the final restart. I was hoping, he maybe get P2, maybe try challenge for the win, but no. He gets overtaken for P4 at first. He gets forced to P4 somehow, which, again, broadcast never showed us. Thank you, TV direction. I love you.
The stream froze when Huizenroder overtook him, and then he overtook Huizenroder back, and then Huizenroder was fighting with Stuka for P4. So then Alex was able to pull away a little bit.
Doesn't help there's no emotion in the commentary.
Oh my god. I have so many complaints about the commentary.
Bring back Jake Sanson, my goat.
I miss Jake Sanson so bad. But these commentators, even Igozi mentioned it after his race 2 when he was like, the commentary, like, they had no emotion when me and Keanu both DNF'd in race 1, even though it was big for the championship.
I think it helps that Jake, he did karting commentary, so he knows a lot of the drivers more personally. He's seen them grow up. But also, like, if a championship leader is DNFing the race leader, that's a massive thing.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, he stopped. Oh no, anyways.
Also, the bit where they were wondering whether René Lammers was any relation to Jan Lammers was...
At least there was commentary, though, unlike E4, where we did complain a lot on this podcast.
Yeah. We had a couple drivers in from Spanish F4 who came in for this weekend. Notably, Nacho Tunion came in and he was performing pretty well. But he finished race 1 in P7, but he got a 10-second penalty for using push to pass under safety car. What? How do you use push to pass under safety car?
Probably just, maybe he's thinking it's probably a button he's doing, maybe he thought of pressing the radio button and he presses the wrong button. That's my theory.
But yeah, so 10-second penalty for Tunion obviously dropped him out of the points. Bart Harrison was involved in like 10 different collisions the entire race. And I don't remember anything anymore. Because he was literally just like pushing everyone off track. He himself was going off track. But so that's basically it for the race. However, we have a giant list of penalties. So initially, there was like a really big group of drivers that were summoned all at the same time. The list of drivers was Borna, Stuka, Huizenroder, Ferrari, Kota, Pradel, sorry, Daniel, Perard, Powell, Harrison, and Trappa. Okay. And every single one of those drivers was summoned again later or like their actual incidents, except Powell. I don't know. I don't know what they were investigating Powell for. I don't know why they didn't summon him again. I don't know anything. But obviously nothing happened to Powell.
He's finally had some good luck.
Finally, he didn't get a podium taken away by penalty. So Borna and Kota got summoned, and Borna got 5 seconds for forcing Kota off track. Daniel got summoned twice. He got a reprimand for waving his flag around after he won the race. And he got a penalty for forcing Al-Azhari off track, like we mentioned earlier. Pradella and Al-Azhari also got summoned, and Pradella also got a penalty for forcing Al-Azhari off track. He really was a victim this whole race. Harrison and Trappa got summoned together, and Harrison got 10 seconds for causing a collision. Huizenroder, Stuka, and Perard were all summoned again, but there was no, like, doc for it, so I assume it was whatever they were being investigated for was no further action. And then Stephen Hayden's got summoned separately, like, outside of that huge list of drivers. He got a 5-place grid drop for the next non-sprint race for driving through the pit lane twice during the reconnaissance lap. I'm confused. I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. Stephen Hayden's kind of had a weekend of all time. You'll see when it comes to later races.
I mean, the sprint race was certainly an event.
So, the sprint race. The start feels very reminiscent to the big Imola crash in Italian F4 last year, where someone stalled on the start. This time it was Tard Benechko, and just got hit from the back by, I think it was Feldman. I don't remember who hit who, but I know Tard Benechko, Feldman, Panetta all were involved, and I think Fiorentino was also involved. But everyone was okay.
Like they breathe the Imola air in, and this happens. I mean, next year, which series will crash there next year? Do we think
I don't know.
E4?
Did they even race Imola in E4?
Yeah.
But yeah, all the drivers were okay, thankfully. The crash looked a lot scarier than it actually was. And during like the red flag period, they were like showing us like remnants of the cars. But after, the whole red flag period, they went back to the original starting grid. So all the cars were sat in the pit lane and they just had to like move the cars around in the pit lane. And I thought that sight was really funny. But then they had a rolling restart and like I said, it was the original grid order because they didn't even make it past turn 1. In terms of the actual racing, after, the red flag ended and they actually started the race, there was a fight between Ikozi, Powell, and Al-Azhari, and it was genuinely the scariest thing I've had to witness. Because I know Igozi is like a clean driver, and obviously I know that Powell's a clean driver. But it was still scary. They were just constantly fighting each other, and I was scared. I was scared that he was going to get crashed out. But he did not. Well, kind of. Al-Azhari went off the track, rejoined the track, pushed Powell off. Powell rejoined behind Al-Azhari. And luckily there was a little bit of gap between like the fight that was going on and the guys behind them. But Al-Azhari ended up DNFing anyways. But I'm still mad that he didn't get a grid penalty for the next race for, an unsafe rejoin that could have very easily taken Powell out of the race. But yeah, so this DNF plus the DNF in the previous race, like we said earlier, had some big championship implications for Al-Azhari. There was like no green laps during that sprint race. Like, I don't remember if we had a single full green lap at all. But I guess that kind of helped Huizenroder, and in the end he ended up winning the race. I think this is the first win for Campos, like, during the main season. Tarnvaneshko won a race in the winter series, and obviously there was the race win for Powell in Harama that got taken away. But in the main Eurocup 3 season, this is Campos's first win, and it's a reverse grid win, which is so embarrassing. There were a bunch of penalties again. Ferrari, Stephen Hayden's, and Kota all got 10 seconds for using push to pass after the safety car ended, but before crossing the start-finish line. Again, Stephen Hayden's got a reprimand for starting his engine before the 1 minute board, which is actually a bit interesting to me because we've discussed this during F4, and the F4 drivers get a penalty for doing this, but it seems it's just a reprimand for Eurocup 3. So I'm not sure why there's a difference in that, but yeah. Delano got a 3-place grid drop for colliding with Perard. Some teammate-on-teammate crime going on during that race. And Stephen Hayden's gets another penalty for 10 seconds for causing a collision with Barboy. We've had a lot of penalties those first 2 races.
Why is everyone getting penalties? Who's not getting penalised at this point? I feel like everyone is getting a penalty.
Powell didn't get penalized.
The colour wheel.
Exactly. However, there were no penalties after race 2. Race 2 was really clean, surprisingly. Igozi won the race, obviously. We're back to Igozi dominance. He won the race by like 5 seconds, ahead of Perard. Perard was under investigation for a jump start, but he just didn't get a penalty, which is weird because I thought that, like, if you get noted for a jump start, it's like 99% of the time you will get the penalty for it, but he didn't get a penalty for it. So I don't know what was up with that. Stuka got his first podium of the season. He seems to really enjoy Imola, apparently. There was only one safety car the entire race, which is surprising considering, the sprint race was basically all safety car. The commentators joked that maybe the drivers just weren't awake enough, so they were just driving carefully. But the safety car happened. There was a little bit of like fighting for position lower down in the field, and Campos, the driver, not the team, ended up with a broken suspension and parked it on the grass. That's where the only safety car of the race came from. But yeah, so no post-race penalties. Not even a single driver investigated after the race. For once, we have a clean Eurocup 3 race. Wow. There was a big, fight in the points between, Lammers, Strauven, Pradel, Ferrari, and Tunion. And they were all, just a bunch of fighting for position again. At one point, I think Pradel was telling Ferrari to, not fight him, or, that he wasn't going to fight him so that they could catch up to the guys ahead, which the commentators mentioned that that's usually a karting thing and that it doesn't happen a lot in, car racing, but I thought that was interesting. And by the end of the race, Tunyoung got a puncture, and we didn't get a replay of what happened to him, but he just, stopped on the side, and because it was the last lap of the race, they just yellow flagged it, and there was no safety car. There were a couple drivers that didn't start the race after, the big crash in the sprint, including Tarnvaneshko. I don't remember who else didn't start the race, but Powell started 2 positions higher than he should have because of it. So he started P14 instead of P16. He ended the race in P11, which I'm a little bit sad about because he was so close to points. But overall, the Campos drivers were kind of struggling with pace a bit throughout the entire race. Well, not the entire race. About halfway through the race, all 3 of them just suddenly lost any sense of being able to overtake or defend position. Huizenroder lost a couple places. Powell just dropped off of the back of, that big fight for the points. And Strauven was kind of struggling to defend against the guys behind him. He did successfully managed to defend against them, but he, you could tell he was struggling. Powell was 2 seconds behind that huge fight, and by the end of the race, he was 8/10 behind them. So he did manage to make up a bit of time, but like not enough to actually get into the fight, unfortunately. But yeah, like I said, no penalties, no post-race investigations, no nothing. So the results of the race were final, like as soon as the race ended. In terms of the championship, obviously Ugozi leads. On 142 points. Behind him is not Al Azhari, but it is Ian Eichmans on 86 points. That is a very big gap.
It's about 56 points, I think, and to think without the DNF in race 1, having 25 points, it'd have been like 80 points or something, which is insane.
Al Azhari is in P3 now on 74 points. Delaniel is P4 on 68, Lammers P5 on 56, and Powell is in P6 on 49. Powell has managed to close down the gap to the guys ahead of him a little bit, because after that double DNF in Portimao, he was like quite a bit far back. And not mentioned in the doc, but one thing that I do remember is that Kasper Stuka is on 47 points. So he is like right on the back of Powell as well. In terms of the team's championship, are we surprised that Pillow is leading?
Nope. We're never surprised when the name Polo is leading.
As I said, he's a witch.
MP Motorsport is second on a. Wait, Pillow is first, obviously, on 216 points. MP behind them on 160. Campos is in P3 on 108. High Tech P4 on 100, and Technicar is on 47. Which I just realized, Stuka was literally on 47 points. So Stuka drives for Technicar, right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so he's scored every single one of Technicar's points.
I love how he predicted the Campos High-Tech title fight, and they're fighting for third.
Campus MP, not Campus High Tech.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't think anyone expected this Pillow Motorsports domination.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
But yeah, that's it for Eurocup 3.
And to continue on our bad predictions, E4.
E4.
We love the Italian F4, and not to trust our race and just go with us racing, which they've certainly continued their strength.
I don't like it. Anyways, I don't think E4 even started out normal from its first quali, considering that we had Kamyab on pole.
And our race qualified P2 for one of the races. I mean,
I remember for quali, that was like, I remember getting my hopes up seeing like Samuelista. I forgot where he qualified, but he was so low on the list. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe the curse is over. I thought I was free. A Prema was on pole.
We were free for like 5 minutes.
Oh my god.
Race 1,
I mean, the McInerney coming. I mean, first, Hamilton was on pole for the third race, but the first two poles were by Prema.
was good, bro, calm.
But only in E4.
I mean, yeah, and then race 1, oh my god, what a snoozer this was.
Really did not expect F4 to be this boring. Like, a couple other races this weekend were like quite boring, but like you'd think that F4 would be a bit more interesting.
The main thing I remember from this race was Camille just falling back at a poor start. He was starting P2, then he kind of fell backwards, but that's literally all that happened. Oh, I think even the drivers were bored because none of them decided to slow under yellow flags.
Oh
Okay.
yes, of course.
That was so funny. Post race, like way after the race, we get a document that says every single driver in the field got 35 seconds for not slowing under yellow flags. Every single one of them.
Imagine if like one backmarker decided to actually respect the yellow flags and he would have won despite being like P28 on the road. That'd have been even that's all we needed to make the situation even funnier.
Like, someone did the math of how much each driver slowed down, because you're supposed to slow down about 15% compared to your like sector in your previous lap. I think the most a driver slowed down was like 7%.
They just said nope, they just don't care about yellow flags anymore.
And some of them sped up, some of them were faster than their previous laps.
F4 is not well.
But yeah, in terms of the RA's drivers, because obviously that's what I care about, the Karas brothers had a great introduction to the series. One of them got murdered by Kuklani. I don't know, this guy seems to hate the RS drivers because remember that one time he was involved in an incident with Emily? And the other Karas brother ended up in an incident with Thomas Behrman, and it was deemed to be the Karas brothers' fault. I don't know which one's which. I can't tell.
So, I mean, I think it's just the always experience. Either you're getting crashed into or crashing into someone.
Exactly.
And like, even race 2 was quite boring.
Except for when Andy Consani decided it was a good idea to just ram into the back of Noah Killian. Maybe it was revenge for when Killian took his P2.
They because he hates us racing like we do. That's what it is. He is anti-us racing.
But yeah, I feel like this entire season I've been complaining about Andy's luck, but at this point it isn't just his luck, it's that he's not that clean of a driver, unfortunately. And like obviously some things have been that he has just had horrific luck. But at the same time, like there are things that you can blame him for, like this incident. He did get 6 places for the next race, which he was already starting P13. So he ended up starting the race in P19.
But I mean, who won? Kenzo. This is first win of the Italian season.
I got really emotional during the race because Sylvestrin mentioned that Arace's last win in Italian F4 like Euro 4 was Alex's win in Mugello.
Mugello Merchant.
Yeah, so very happy with the Kenzo win. I wish Andy locked in a little bit because he was fighting for I think where was he, like P7 or something at the time?
Yeah, because we were joking. We were joking about Bondarev and Kansani fighting for P7 again.
Yeah, guys, UAE4 champion and runner up fighting for P7 in Europe. That's so sad.
Meanwhile, you have Roman Kamiev in the podium positions.
I'm so surprised considering like he's so new to car racing, but he did really well at IF4 Vallelunga, so I was like, okay, I guess fair.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, pole, and good for him, and hopefully he can maybe keep this up. It was a bit of a messy weekend, but I think like all the other guys, a lot of them have done, they did UAE for, they've done the whole. He came halfway. He came like what in the second weekend or something of Italian.
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah. But yeah, this race kind of shows the duality of RA's GP. Either you're winning or you're nowhere.
Oh my god, race 3.
Race 3 clashed with F1, and I couldn't tell what was going on in either race.
And it didn't help that there was no commentary.
Yeah, there was no commentary for like the first like almost half the race, and then we got to the first safety car, and then suddenly like we could hear like Salveston. But the thing is that there was audio, like you could hear something from the commentary booth because there were multiple times during the race where I would be listening to E4 and there would just be Italian speaking, but it sounded like someone on the phone just got really close to the mic, and then they would walk away. And I was just like, wait a minute. And so I couldn't keep track of everything.
It was so weird. Because I was trying. Usually, when stuff clashes with F1, I prioritize the feeder series over F1, like in terms of commentary, because I cannot listen to more than one commentary at once. But we had no commentary.
Yeah. And oh, before anything, something really weird happened for E4 race 3 where Macagnani just did not start, which was weird because he's like he just didn't start race 3, and I think they might have probably was trying to tell us what happened probably in the commentary before the race started, but seeing as we didn't have any race commentary coming through the stream, we just don't know.
Like I initially thought he was like involved in an incident in race 2 or something, and like they couldn't fix the car in time, but he wasn't. He just did not start for God knows why.
Yeah.
George Proudford Nalder was having a pretty decent weekend up until race 3, where he just crashed into Bernaldi. and had them both DNF, which gave him a which gave him a sixth place grid drop for the next race, which would obviously be next weekend, like next race weekend. I mean, at one point, something happened to Tamaskander. I don't know what happened to him, but they killed him. I don't know. I couldn't tell what was happening again.
Yeah, I think this is when Chartier crashed into him, I think. But that was like it was like earlier on in the race when we still didn't have commentary, so you could only really just see him fall down the order, and that's all we got. But Chartier's got a 6th position drop for it next race.
And like we know our opinions on TV direction.
There was a bit more contact between a bunch of other drivers. Orsini and Rodriguez ended up in a collision, and Krayling took Ruta out. Us Racing downfall anyone?
Please.
And the race ended under safety car. So,
Oh my.
Can we just make us racing not exist anymore?
Do we talk about the us racing shenanigans or no?
we should mention the penalties first. So, like we mentioned a couple of them already, Chartier got six places, and then also got 8 places on top of that. For he killed 2 of the R races. Rodriguez got 6 places, Krayling got 6 places, Prodford Nobler got 6 places, and Kamyab got 10 seconds. What did he get 10 seconds for?
Yeah, that's the thing. Oh no, it was the very last bit where oh yeah, no, never mind, I do remember now. At the penultimate lap or so, or a little bit later, he made contact with Krayling, like basically last lap like move, and I think that might have been it.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, at one point, Killian, got a fine, or like us racing got a fine for sending Killian out in like an unsafe release into the pit lane. And us racing were trying to appeal that penalty. However, during like when they were summoned for the penalty originally, the team manager of us racing got really aggressive with both the officials and the team manager of the PHM team, including some sort of verbal abuse. And like the reasoning that they were using to try and appeal the fine was that, oh, like another driver or like another team broke the rules first, so that means we shouldn't get punished for breaking the rules ourselves, because I think it was that someone was already in the fast lane of the pit lane.
Yeah, Oscar Repetto from PHM, which is why the PHM team manager was there. Yep. My god.
Yeah, so Repetto was already in the pit lane, in the fast lane, when he wasn't supposed to be. And so us racing had released Noah Killian into his path or something like that. Something about an unsafe release. So us racing were trying to argue like there was a driver in the fast lane when there shouldn't have been. So therefore we did not break the rules. And the stewards said that, if you had seen an incident, you should have reported it to us. And then us racing were trying to argue that like it's not our responsibility to report incidents. And then there was another document that came out about the verbal abuse that the us racing manager was like doing. And apparently both the Prema and the AKM team managers were outside the steward's room, and they overheard what was happening. So the fact that the us racing team manager was loud enough that people outside the room could hear him, that's insane.
And it's worrying.
How is a person like that allowed to run a team of children? This is an F4 team.
Like it makes you almost like wonder how they treat their staff and how they treat their drivers behind closed doors. It's quite worrying that they even act like this in front of officials and stewards. Like,
So weird. But yeah, so All this over, what was it, 2,000 euros, which obviously is a lot to us, but to a successful team, I don't think that's that much. But yeah, I don't know. I think they did try to appeal, and I don't think anything's come out of that yet. But I guess we'll see. I just thought that was really concerning. Anyways, in terms of the championships,
Oh my god.
Samalisto obviously leads on 86 points. However, Kenzo Craigie is in second, which makes me very happy. He's 30 points behind Samalisto on 56 points. Bondarev is right behind him as well on 52.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, thank God.
Samenkov is P4 on 42, and Azoy is also on 42, but is in P5. And in terms of the team's championship, Us Racing is on 150 points, but they're not that far ahead of Prema, actually. Prema's on 130. Our race is in P3 on 70 points, and then VAR is in 4th on 14. And then Trident is P5 on 8 points. I think you can kind of tell the fact that Prema has 7 cars, Us Racing has 7 cars, and our race has 5. So they're basically taking up all of the points positions. No one else can get points anyways.
Yeah, there were multiple points during the races where I was like, let's look at who's occupying the positions, and literally all the entire time it was like top 14 is Prema, us, and Ares, and then P15 would be like a VAR, and it's like Thomas Behrman, and I'm like, okay, it's fair.
I feel bad for the smaller teams that can't score any points because our race, Us Racing, and Prema are all just hogging the points. It was worse last year when the points were top 10. At least this year it's top 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. The championships are kind of funny looking. But that's it for our E4.
And like we said, E4 is basically IF4 2.0, so it's not surprising that the standings look practically the same.
But yeah, that's it. So moving on to F1 Academy.
I mean, okay. I think we should all be aware that I'm a huge fan of F1 Academy. And this weekend, I think, saw one of the most interesting things happened in recent history of F1 Academy, which is not long anyway. We had a wild card with Chiara Petit, which is important to me that we all pronounce the, I don't know how to say it in English, but the little dot above the A. It's important to me. And she is by far the most accomplished wildcard we've seen so far since the addition of wildcard in the 2024 season. I was honestly, or I'll go through the weekend first. So, training, she led the what's the word? She led the I mean, she was by far the quickest and really impressive because what a lot of people and I've said before, she's in a high tech. The wildcard driver this year is in a high tech. And if you watch F1 Academy, you should be aware that high tech is kind of considered one of the worst cars because it's unclear if the problem is that they have the least experienced drivers with the least backing of F1 teams, or if it's just that the team itself isn't good. But this weekend we saw also the other two high-tech drivers, Ava Dobson and Rachel Robertson, are really good. And I was wondering how far, both for high-tech and the drivers, that could be based on the fact that both the team and the drivers are based pretty much in I wouldn't say that they're not necessarily based. They all raced a lot in Silverstone. I expect them to know this track probably are the best. And in qualifying, it went on pretty much the same with Chiara leading pretty dominantly in front of Alicia Homofsky, who I don't know is kind of the favorite already, and we all saw that she was very far ahead of other drivers so far. But and here is the fact where I think becomes really interesting. We saw Lisa Billard in P3, which is already really good thing for her because I think we all expected maybe not more from, but the fact that she is sponsored by Gatorade and not by NF40 has already been confusing to some people. And the fact that she's with ART, who are another considerably weak team, has also, made some people raise their eyebrows, me included. But she had her best qualifying. It was really good, I think. But also, I think it's important to point out other good performances by Dobson and Robertson, as I mentioned, high tech whole thing. If someone wants to throw anything in, I'm open. I'm just rattling down all my thoughts at the moment. So either they are interested or I'm understandable, either ways. Um, for not so good performances, we saw Pat once again pretty far down, and I think that I don't think it's her problem, but as far as I saw, she was again her problem. Very similar to Lloyd. It's also been struggling with Trump art. Um, so for the reverse race, we saw referee the same wrong. Or please, but I can't look at the dog right now. But we saw the global bias from first pole, which is on one hand side, it's a good thing for her to take points. She's second in the standings. She wants to take any points she can get to oppose Alicia. But on the other hand, it's just P8 reverse grip pole. And the final podium was made up of her, Nina Gateman, and Ella Lloyd, who did a pretty solid race. But overall, we all criticized the fact that these cars just do not really work at first. I felt like it was kind of too big from my view because the cars are barely comparable low and they don't have any gimmick, any other series. They don't have DRS, they don't have push to pads, they have nothing. So it's kind of difficult to overtake around here. And we saw it because, especially in the front, very little happened. The point is, Alicia did a few overtakes. Sierra got up the line fairly slow and got overtaken. And the final fight, or the only real overtaking on the race, was between Megan Bruce, Ava Dobson, and Kiara Batik, where Kiara Batik came out on top in P8 again, where she started, which was kind of, I mean, she held herself pretty well. She didn't crash, that's the thing, but her start was not, the best, but it's always something to work on. And other than that, not much happened. Race 2 was much the same. There was not much things happening except for Ella Lloyd. But I think it was 5, which was really good. It was really good performance by her to overtake so much. Other than that, Unsha once again won the race. Sierra had not the best start, and I think it's kind of roundabout it. I think the most important part is really people were really impressed by Kiara leading both practice and the qualifying. Even if she didn't end up winning, she's the first wildcard driver to take a podium, which is already, I think, quite a performance that, I kind of expected it in 2024 from Alicia also when she would have started P4, but the race was cancelled. It was Qatar, I think. But anyways, I think performance a lot of us are expecting to see her do so well. And I think that's right, but it because no one else has anything left to say. And please don't let me do the outro because the only thing that I know is that I'll be at British F4 next week, and if everything goes right, I can tell some funny stories from that, what I saw live.
So that should be all for this week's episode. Next week, there's really not that much going on, but we should be covering British F4, and that's about it. So, yeah, thank you.